For people that don't know, if you don't mind taking a minute, giving everybody your background and how the story came about with Hunter Biden's laptop.
Well, it was Friday night, about 10 minutes before closing, and Hunter came in with 3 liquid damaged MacBooks. And I can tell you for a fact that was not one of them. That is a photo, probably part of a disinformation operation, but we can go into that later. He showed up. One was.
By the way, just out of curiosity, is the actual laptop's picture anywhere online?
No.
So you never took a picture of it?
No.
You don't have a video of the laptop?
No. I have the serial number.
But you didn't take any videos or anything with the laptop?
I wanted that thing out of my shop.
No shit.
You know.
Wow.
It was. Number one priority was to get it to the authorities so I could have some level of protection.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
So he came in, the 15-inch MacBook Pro had a Beau Biden Foundation sticker on it. So I kind of instantly assumed, because his brother had passed away, I believe, about a year before, that these were his deceased brother's laptops. Because a lot of customers come in and they want to recover their memories off of their deceased loved ones' devices. So it is a common thing. And I felt bad for the guy. And even though I was trying to get out of there, I was like, look, he's got 3 Macs. I would normally charge $200 a pop for data recovery. Let me see the severity of the failure. So I helped him out. One machine was a complete write-off. The other machine just had missing or inoperable keys from liquid damage. So I gave him a keyboard and I showed him that's how I learned his password. So if there's any question on hacking, usually people that get hacked don't voluntarily give away their passwords in that process.
John Paul, you're in Delaware, correct?
Yep, Wilmington.
Okay, so that's Biden country, so to speak, right?
I live about 10 miles from Joe's house.
And when he walked in, did you know exactly who he was? Or guys, I know you're visually impaired. Where does that come into to play here?
I didn't know who I was talking to until he presented the Beau Biden thing, and when I was checking him in at the actual check-in process, I asked him who he was, and he was like, Hunter.
And then obviously you just knew exactly who that was right then and there, or what?
When he sarcastically said Biden when I requested his last name, because I think he just automatically anticipated me knowing who he was. Then I was like, all right, and then the Beau Biden sticker kind of put everything together. But again, I never really cared what he looked like or who he was, for that matter.
And this is in 2019?
This is April 12th, 2019.
Got it.
So I give him back the one machine. The third machine had some power issues, wouldn't power on, so I had to take it into the back and check that one in. So I ultimately just created a bill that said data recovery for 3 Macs, because, again, I hadn't gone through them yet, and $85, which is basically the lowest rate that I could charge somebody. And because, at that time, I thought I was helping this guy who was inebriated. He looked a mess, and I thought he was grieving. This is his deceased brother's things. So I didn't discover until I started doing the data recovery the following day that this was not his deceased brother's laptops. These were actually his. And then I saw a lot of compromising, a lot of embarrassing material on the laptop. But again, this was April 12th, or 13th, 14th, 15th. So this wasn't, his dad wasn't running for president yet. So, and I never thought he would, because it was Joe. He was kind of in declining years. So I really didn't get afraid until about a couple weeks later when his father announced his candidacy, and I realized that there's probably going to be a member on his staff or a Secret Service member that's going to find this piece of paperwork authorizing me to recover data from these 3 laptops. And if they know what's on those laptops, then I'm the only one on the planet that knows about that behavior. And I thought my days were numbered. So I needed to, when it became my property in about mid-July, about 3 years ago, I knew that I needed to get it to the authorities, but I didn't trust local authorities. I didn't trust the FBI. Roger Stone was raided, I think, in January, that previous January, so I had definitely apprehensions about going to the FBI. So I went to the only person I really trusted, and that was my father. And in September of 2019, on a car ride back from a gunship reunion in Utah, it was like a 7-hour drive back to Denver. And Mom's asleep in the back, so I figured this is a good time to explain my situation to my father. And I told him everything, and not everything. He didn't want to know certain things for plausible deniability. But we both agreed that the best thing for him to do was get him the paperwork, get him a copy of the drive so he could approach the FBI out in Albuquerque. And about this time, my mom woke up and she made this statement. She goes, "That sounds like the laptop from hell." So needless to say, she's pretty upset with Miranda Devine for stealing the title of her book. But so on October 8th, after I mailed my father a copy of the drive and gave him all the paperwork, or copies of the paperwork, he went to the FBI field office in Albuquerque, where an agent refused to give his name, kind of harassed my father, questioned motives, questioned the legality of the possession of the device, and basically told him to lawyer up and get out of the office.
Wow.
And I mean, this is the first time my father, who's 31-year career colonel in the Air Force, never asked anything from the bureaucracy, basically. And so he was a bit disappointed that all he wanted was protection for his son. So about a month later, apparently it got the attention of someone because the FBI reached out to him in an effort to get a hold of me. We agreed, and the FBI came to my house. I explained the situation in about beginning of November, about mid-November. And I presented them with some stuff I had printed up because during this time, the impeachment hearings had started. Or there was whispers of it. It was getting close. There was now the big concern. Sure, I'm fearful of my safety. I've definitely witnessed criminal activity on this device. But now there's an impeachment whispers of impeachment that's occurring over a phone call about the previous administration in Ukraine. And I had seen enough information on that laptop to know that there was a blatant pay-for-play scheme. The Bidens made out like bandits during the 2014 Ukrainian conflict. And in my opinion, from what I had seen, President Trump had every reason to call Zelensky, considering Zelensky was created by Igor Kolomoisky, who was Hunter Biden's business partner.
Wow.
And when the Bidens could no longer protect Kolomoisky and his billions that he embezzled during the Ukraine conflict, Kolomoisky did the next best thing. He made his own president. He took his prize actor from his TV series or TV station and groomed him to be the president, got him elected. So now he doesn't have to worry. First thing Zelensky did when he got elected was the privatization of Pravda Bank, which was Igor's bank. He made that illegal. So Igor could have his bank back, have his money back, and return to the country. So it was, to watch what's happening in Ukraine happen all over again, it's scary, except this time we're sending $40 billion instead of $18 billion.
John, what would you say if you can even say it, besides the Ukraine and all that type of stuff? What was the most disturbing thing that you saw that I don't know if you've told anybody, but what was there anything that would make you go like, oh my God, like he should be in prison for this 100%?
Yeah, I think I know where you're getting at.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of efforts by a lot of individuals out there to metaphorically or not literally insert fake data onto this laptop. And there's a couple reasons why somebody would want to do this. They either want to get notoriety and fame for something that they have zero involvement in, or there's an effort to insert questionable material into a laptop that's in the possession of members of Congress. So if you wanted to punish certain members of Congress, then you have an excuse to say, especially if they received copies of a drive that has this alleged material from an individual that may have put this in material on it. And the other concern that we should be careful, like Hunter signed a document. After 90 days, that laptop became my property. If there's another laptop out there that has 450 gigs of mysteriously discovered 80,000 images of this or whatever, that came from something else that was not legally acquired. So if you start to muddy the waters, and then we're expected to have something that's going to be admitted as evidence and hopefully trials that will occur in the next couple of years, we can't have that information be tainted. And we can't have somebody throw it all out because somebody decided to run an operation to lie about the contents of the data. So we have to be really careful. I didn't see any CP in the levels that people were talking. I saw a lot of inappropriate behavior with family members, and that's all I'm going to talk about.
Wow.
Inappropriate behavior with family members? Okay, let me speculate. I'm going to speculate. You can decide to say whatever you want to say. Speculative, inappropriate content with family members. So it would be drugs, it would be sex, it would be theft, it would be accounts, it would be, what else it would be? I mean, that's what it's going to be. Outside of that, what else would be in there, right?
Well, again, like I've always told people, there's enough criminal material on that laptop. We don't need to make up anything. We don't need to find a dark place in our minds where we want to believe that there's this evil that's on it. There's enough evil on it. We don't need to make up.
Who has the laptops now?
Oof. Well, the FBI should. They took it from me, gave me a subpoena and everything and a receipt. And that was December 9th, 2019. If they've lost it, I have I still have the copy that I gave my father, which predates the copy I gave to Rudy, or Rudy's office, because I never gave it to Rudy.
Did you sign off that you can never talk about what's in the laptop? Did you say that to the FBI or no?
The only thing I remotely said to the FBI like that was jokingly when they were leaving. I said, don't worry, lads. When I write the book, I'll leave your names out. And that's when one agent turned around and said, in our experience, nothing ever happens to people that don't talk about these things. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be quiet.
So you've never told anything to anybody about the laptop?
Well, not until I reached out directly to Rudy Giuliani's office. So when the FBI took possession of everything, my fingers were crossed because I was hoping, even though a lot of red flags occurred, they told me that if anybody or Hunter came looking for it, I was to give them a BS story that it's off-site and give me a couple days to get it. I was immediately to text Agent Mike, and he would return the laptop to me. So I'm thinking, if this is evidence, how can they return it? And that's kind of where I started to feel like they cared more about the previous owner of the laptop and protecting them than they did about protecting me. So, and of course, when the impeachment happened and this laptop was nowhere to be seen and it was admitted as evidence for the defense from the White House, then I was just like, okay, we need to go to another level here. So I sent my father and my uncle, who's also a retired colonel in the Air Force, I gave them enough material, basically the material I had printed up and tried to give to the FBI, but they didn't touch it. They just gave me a subpoena, wanted all his stuff, and then left. So they went out, knocked on members of Congress, their doors to get their attention, alert them. I even believe my Uncle Ron sent a fax to the White House directly saying we have national security concerns. Because not only for a pay-for-play, but just the amount of sensitive data that was being sent in the open, unencrypted, to private Ukrainian citizens. And this information included everything from the vice president's travel schedule, all policies and procedures, economics, any discussion that the White House would have relating to Ukraine was being sent to a private Ukrainian citizen that worked for a company that was employing the vice president's son. And that is not cool. So,
John Paul, it sounds like not only were you fixing the laptop, you were getting in there. I mean, you were looking at, and this isn't, I don't think, hearsay, there was pornography on there.
There's a lot.
Okay, boom. There's definitely some smoke and crack stuff going on.
A lot.
Boom. But then there's this Ukrainian business dealing stuff. Sounds like you went pretty deep into those emails.
Yeah, absolutely. When it became my property, and I'm thinking somebody's going to kick down my door, I'm waiting for it to happen. I'm trying desperately. I called him up multiple times through the month of April and May to come and pick up this thing.
You called Hunter, you're saying? And no answer, no messages, nothing. No text, zero response.
Didn't come back. I sent him an automated Square payment request. So he was, here, you owe the Mac shop $85. Yeah. Ding.
There was no response whatsoever.
Well, he responded. So when I called him up, I want to say it was like the 15th.
Yeah.
When I was done with the recovery, it was like the following Monday. Called him up to let him know, hey, I recovered about 220 gigabytes of data. Go to Best Buy. If you get a drive that's 500 gigs or bigger, that'll be more than enough. Drop it off. Give me 24 hours, and then I'll knock it out. So he shows up on the 16th and drops off the drive. So I know he's getting my messages. I know he's.
So he did come back to the repair shop and dropped off a hard drive.
A 2 terabyte Western Digital external drive.
Okay.
So, if he has any doubt where he was on that weekend, I can say that he was at a Best Buy and his credit card should show that.
But then he never came back to pick up.
Yeah, that's when he asked me to bill him electronically. I said, "Is Square okay?" He's like, "Sure." And then he never came back in.
So you had multiple dealings with Hunter Biden. The first time that he showed
the
up.
first time, and then the second time when he came to drop off the drive.
And then after he dropped off the drive, zero response after that.
Zero, except until his lawyer called me up on October 13th, 2020, the day before the New York Post ran the story. So the eve of that, he called me up because I guess it's common practice for when a story's going to go, you want to reach out to those involved, see if they have a statement. So he calls me up about 10 minutes before closing on that Tuesday. And it was like, yeah, my client left a laptop with you. He said 2017. So I was like, oh, Hunter doesn't remember. It was 2019, but I'll go with it. So I did what the FBI told me to do. I said, hey, normally we don't hold on to equipment that long, but I'll check in our reclamation center tomorrow. And can you shoot me an email with your credentials and so I know that you can officially represent the client? And he agreed. So I have an email saying, hey, I'm Hunter's lawyer. Thanks for talking to me tonight. So I was like, well, that's good enough for me. And then I immediately called Bob Costello, who was my point of contact at Rudy Giuliani's office. And he was also promised me that if anything ever hit the fan, I was to call him and he'd take care of my security needs. So I call him up and I'm like, I think it hit the fan. I just got a call from George Maceras, who's Hunter's lawyer. And he was like, that ship sailed. Go home, get some sleep. Nothing can be done. It's the story's coming out tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, great. The fact that George Maceras asked me on the phone, he said, are you still at the backside of Trolley Square? And that was like enough for me not to go home that night because I figured he knew exactly where I was. And the story hadn't broken yet. I figured once the story was out, then I would be okay because then I wouldn't be murdered. So unfortunately, watching the next day, watching the internet and mainstream media put a kibosh on the whole story and prevent the truth from getting out, and then the narrative is being replaced that I colluded with a foreign power to affect an election. So that things started to go downhill rather quickly after that.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.